like this idea, I think, right?
I love this idea. You know, Brad talked to me about this first in 2021, and I immediately loved the idea. You know, we know that the most important thing a country can do is invest in its people, especially its children. And for all the reasons that you mentioned, I'm sure we'll get into more of the details. Totally love the idea.
Brad, the brain trust of this, where did it come from?
Well, first, it's great to be here, and it's pretty extraordinary to be here with my partner and dear friend, Michael. You know, I grew up a poor kid in Indiana.
You seem to have done okay.
In rural Indiana. And I watched my dad lose everything in 1979. And so I know a little something about starting with nothing. And when this president ran for office, he said, my agenda is the Main Street agenda. The 50 million families that have been left out and left behind, that are disconnected to the American dream. And so when we were coming out of COVID in 2021, I had a conversation with my kids around the kitchen table and showed them the accounts I had set up for them at birth. And my son Lincoln, who's here today, asked me a very simple question. He said, what about all the other kids? And we talked about the wealth gap in the country. And we talked about the challenge of growing up with nothing. And then he turned to me and said, well, what are you going to do about it? And that started us on a journey around founding the Invest America Foundation, the Invest America Act, but it would never have happened without the courage, without the partnership of Michael and the courage of this president. That's where it comes from. It comes from a love of country and an understanding that we're losing that connection to the American dream, and that stops today. Today and forevermore. Every child born in America becomes a shareholder in America. Every child gets an investment account at birth. It'll be seeded with $1,000, but families, moms and dads, philanthropists, the greatest philanthropists in the country, and they all want to contribute. And states and corporations, you're going to hear much more about that today. And so you get that little snowball that Warren Buffett talks to us about, you get it rolling at age 0. These kids will have $50,000 at 18, $200,000 at age 30, $1 million at age 55, and they own and control it. They learn about finances. So I mean, don't get me on the soapbox. You know, this has been my life. And
twice as much if their company matches the government's contribution, which many great companies have already contributed.
I think it's
said they're going to do that.
You know, Michael, be specific, because many people don't understand how is it that this grows. It's going into the S&P 500 index, the engine of America, and in a very inexpensive way. Most people, and as I've learned, because of the lack of financial education at an early age, don't understand there's a difference between just putting money into a savings account and doing this. Explain that a little bit. What's inside? What's the engine that makes this work?
Well, the engine is you're investing in the great American companies.
Including yours.
Including ours, but essentially it's the S&P 500. And those are, you know, the 500 largest, most successful companies in America. And, you know, the equity in those investments, you know, has proven to be a fantastic investment over time. I believe certainly markets will fluctuate, but you know, over a 10, 20-year period, these accounts are likely to grow quite substantially. And more importantly, you know, let's understand that if you don't have any capital, there's no reason to learn anything about it. And one of the hopes here is that
now you've got skin in the game.
We got skin in the game. We've got a reason to want to understand how companies work and how capitalism works, and to you know, learn about those things. We already have about 2/3 of the states require some amount of financial literacy, hopefully all of them. And yeah, when you're in 7th grade, all right, let's look up your account and see how much you have. You see you've got a little bit of all of these great companies. It's compounding, it's growing. You know, when I was 8 years old, I had the great opportunity to get a passbook savings account. Okay, and I had a few dollars in there, and you'd go there and you'd give them another dollar, and they'd stamp the book, and kind of learned about compound interest. I had the also great situation. My mother was a stockbroker, okay? So she was teaching me about investing and about capital, about companies.
You were trading at 8 years old.
Pretty much, yeah. So learned about all that from a very early age. And if we can spark that interest in some of the 70 million kids that we have in this country, that will have been a wonderful thing.
So Brad, that's likely to happen because when you become cognizant of what money is, it could be, these days, kids get pretty smart pretty soon. They've got a lot of technology on their side. At some point, they'll be able to look at their phone and say, whoa, look at that. Won't that incentivize more interest in understanding what's going on there?
No doubt about it, and it's already happening, right? The problem is it's only happening for a few kids in America. If you're a kid in this country with money, then you come to your parents, you say, hey, I want a Robinhood account. I want to trade my account. These kids, we have great CEOs here of companies like Robinhood and Schwab, et cetera. They know these kids want to use these phones. The problem is everybody else. And that's the important point here, Kevin. This is not about an account that's going to change the lives of my kids.
So
my kids were already
will be on their phones. They'll be able to see.
Every single child in America, all they need to do is claim the account. We need every parent in America to claim the account that we're going to create on the 250th anniversary of America for their child. And to be precise, the money in these accounts for 75 years, the S&P 500 is compounded at 10.2%. This is the greatest economy with the greatest companies in the history of the world, and we're going to make every single citizen a shareholder. That is a transformational change in the social contract, in the promise that we're making for this country. You heard the Secretary say, we're in a battle for the soul of America. We are in a battle for the soul of America. It's time to give everybody the opportunity to share in this upside.
So to claim your account, simply done online, your social security number, that's it, and it starts.
So, the great fortune here is we're attacking this like a Silicon Valley startup in terms of building the app under the great leadership of Secretary Bessent, Luke Pettit, the Assistant Treasury Secretary, who's helping to lead the charge. Joe Gebbia, one of the co-founders of Airbnb, is actually designing the app on our behalf. And we understand in Silicon Valley, you got to remove all the friction. One click, get your account. We want it as automatic as possible. We want every family to claim this account. And then even more importantly, we want it to be super simple for moms and dads and friends of the family to add $5, to add $10 to Apple Pay. Double click on your phone. And instead of buying that Frappuccino, drop an extra $5 into your kid's account. If you do that every week, and if you save $50 extra a week, it's transformational in the lives of your kids. And I'll just leave you with this. We ran a study 2 years ago. Kevin Hassett was one of the people who helped us do that study along with Rob Shapiro. There's a common belief in America that poor folks don't save. But you want to know the truth? Poor cohorts save if they have an account. The problem is that most folks in this country don't have an investment account and they don't have a savings account. We are going to unleash all of those moms and dads love their kids just as much as folks who have money. We're going to unleash the power of them saving on behalf of their kids. And when you combine the power of philanthropists, the power of corporations, but most importantly, moms and dads, birthday parties and bar mitzvahs, right? That $5 or $10 a week, I think that is going to be the most transformational change.
So in that vision, when the child turns 18 and has access to these funds, that becomes the anchor, the basis upon which they build their financial future. This account can be extended, broadened out, maybe more sophisticated where they buy and sell their own stocks and bonds. It's a financial literacy launch pad in a way, because if you're right, and I'm sure you are, if you don't have an account, you can't do any of this stuff. Now you do. You're basically gifted one at birth. You don't know what it is for the first 36 months. Then somebody starts pointing to it and saying, look at this, it's yours. And by then it's grown.
I came to Michael, told him about the idea. But the most important and transformational part about the idea is I said, Michael, this isn't a government program. This isn't coming to bended knee to the government where the government controls the account and then we're dependent, increased dependency on government. It's the exact opposite of UBI. This is the antidote to socialism. The antidote to socialism is more capitalism. And I said, Michael, this is a direct giving platform. If we create universal private ownership from birth, Michael, will you invest into those accounts? And tell us a little bit, Michael, about the study that you went through with Susan, your incredible wife, and the Dell Foundation, and the conclusions you came to that are leading a lot of other people to follow.
Yeah, so our foundation has been focused on children from the beginning, and we've already, given several $1 billion away, and I would say invested several $1 billion. And we looked at this program kind of like what you're describing as sort of a platform. And there have been a number of smaller versions of this at states and in other countries. And what our study found was that when a child has an account like this, they are way more likely to graduate from high school, to go on to college and graduate, to buy a home, to not be incarcerated, to be a contributing member of society, and it improves the mental health of both the child and the parent, even with a relatively small sum. And so that is why we wanted to participate in this in a big way. Originally, you and I went back and forth on these discussions, and with Susan as well, and we were like, well, what if we did Texas, and then we sort of said, well, let's just go big, right? And so we said, it's the 250th anniversary of the birth of the nation. $250 to 25 million children would cover most of the children that are born between 2016 and 2024, so the 2 to 10-year-olds, because the government's covering the 0 to 2. And we targeted our gift to the zip codes where the median income is less than $150,000. So that, my kids are
So
older
you're
now.
basically providing the bonus round to this. That's what's happening.
Well, this is to get them started on their financial journey, and then, of course, we have Ray and Barbara Dalio, who have decided to do exactly what we're doing, but in the state of Connecticut. So those kids will get $500, and I think there's going to be other similar announcements. We've talked to lots of folks.
Let's not be coy here, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Do we have any similar
I'm going to do it in the state of Indiana. We're going to announce that. Coming up
Thank
here,
you, Brad.
my home state. We're going to get all 50 states in this country. I can tell you this: we have 250 wealthy people in this country who signed the Giving Pledge, Kevin. The problem with that is they don't know how to give the money away. If you're fortunate enough to start a computer business in your college dorm and have it become the most successful computer business in the history of the world, like the guy sitting next to me, how do you effectively? We are the most giving nation in the history of the world. Most of the rest of the world, they protect their wealth, generation skipping trust, dynastic wealth. If you talk to the richest 250 people in America, they want to give it away. That is a uniquely American phenomenon. But how do you give it away? Now we're going to cut out the middleman, cut out the charities, that are taking that scrape. Not all charities. Charities are great. But this is a way to directly give to America's kids at scale. $5 billion, $10 billion, $20 billion from America's great philanthropists. The Treasury Secretary issued a 50-state challenge. On the 250th birthday of America, we want all 50 states to have similar programs that get launched. And I will tell you this, because Michael and I are chairing the Giving Committee of Invest America. We're making the ask, and our hit rate is 100%. America's most successful people love the idea of contributing to these accounts. And so stay tuned over the course of the next weeks and months, but we're going to have a big bang come July 4th this year.
And it not only strengthens, these families and these children, but of course it strengthens the nation.
You brought up a really interesting point, I think, that many people have missed about this program, beyond just its simplicity. Most charities have an expense ratio. They have to. They have infrastructure, reporting requirements, compliance issues. The drag can be as much as 9–10%. This has zero. You set it up, no friction, it all goes to the child. That's the sheer genius of this.
And importantly, you know, and soapbox and sell, but for the philanthropists who are listening and in the room, it's 501c3 deductible, right? You're giving the money away to America's kids. There's no cost, right? You get the deductibility that the tax code, you know, provides for that. And importantly, right, again, I keep coming back to this. Less than half of the kids under the age, or citizens under the age of 40, believe in capitalism. We have a crisis in America, a battle for the soul of America. This is the antidote. This is a firewall in defense of free markets and capitalism and democracy. And on the verge of our 250th birthday, that is the negotiation. That is the social contract. It's not only the right thing to do on a moral basis to get everybody else into the game, but it's in the best interest of our country.
It's true. It's impossible to find a mistake in this idea. And that's rare these days. On top of that, 100% bipartisan. Who doesn't want to do this?
I mean, that's and Michael can comment to this as well, and I think it's a really important point. You know, Michael and I are working with a lot of governors around the country. You know, you already heard from the state of Texas. State of Texas has said they're going to add $1,000 to all the kids born in the state of Texas. You're going to see a competition among states. Red states, blue states, they're all going to add to the accounts of the kids, you know, who are born in their states, and they're going to do a lot of creative things, you know, tied to that giving, the citizens of those states. But, you know, when Michael and I have conversations with people on the left and the right on Capitol Hill, I can tell you, when the doors are closed, everybody says, you know what, the president signed it. He deserves to have his name on the bill. We support this. We love this idea. It helps America's kids. Obviously, when they walk out in front of cameras, sometimes the story is a little bit different. You know, we have a lot of reasons to have debates and battles in this country. This is one thing we can all agree on.
You know, Brad, the more I listen to you, I'm thinking this is Social Security doged. That's what happened. Yeah. It was stripped of all the bureaucracy and made simple, supporting the individual and their rights and their dream and their family in a unique way never thought of.
Yeah, can I say one thing about the Social Security you know, aspect of this? Because my 90-year-old mother, who was just at the national, I'm a Hoosier. She was in Miami with me to watch Fernando Mendoza lead our Hoosiers to a national championship.
I was in Miami watching Miami lose.
But my mom said something to me 3 years ago that was really important. She said, you know, when they told us about Social Security, they made a sacred promise to us. They said, my mom was poor, working 2 jobs. We're going to take money out of your paycheck, and we're going to save it for you. And when you retire, we're going to give it back to you, right? That was an evolution to the social contract of America on the eve of the Industrial Revolution that prevented us from going the way of Weimar Germany.
And how'd that work out?
Okay. Well, the good news is it's a promise, I think, that has transformed this country, kept this country together, made this country the greatest country on the planet. However, a complement to that, not a replacement. This president has made absolutely clear Social Security is a sacred promise that must be met and will be met. And we're the richest country on the planet, and we have the capability to do that. However, it's equally important that we give every child a prosperity account. Because too many kids along the way, we shouldn't make them wait until they're 60 years old to feel connected to America. They need to see their dollars going to work for them and compounding on them. And we all know that the social contract is going to have to evolve in the age of AI, right? These kids need to see on their phone they have a little OpenAI and Anthropic and all the new companies that will come of age, because we're going to have disruption from artificial intelligence. It's a lot easier to face those sorts of disruptions that the Industrial Revolution brings or the AI revolution brings when you have skin in the game and you're benefiting on the upside.
Michael, back in '87, you democratized technology by breaking the $1,000 price point at Walmart with what was called back then a multimedia PC. I was there selling educational software. In August, this is just a little piece of history which talks about, you're too shy to say this, but until then a PC was not affordable by a family. $899 for a Dell computer. You don't even remember the price. And why that mattered, it hit in February of '87. By August, when Michael Jackson wanted to drop his Bad album, the entire software industry had taken up world capacity of CD-ROMs because your machine had a CD-ROM in it. Michael's album was delayed for 2 weeks because of you. That's what happened.
I've been blamed for a lot of things, so I'm used to that. But look, I think the point is that in not that many years, we're going to have almost every single child is going to have an account with a reasonably substantial amount of money in it, with the government's contribution, the state level contributions, certainly families and philanthropists contributing, and that over 10, 20, 30 years will make an enormous difference in this country. That's really what I'm very excited about.
And it's what I love, whether you're in rural Indiana or rural Mississippi, whether you're in western Texas or you're in inner city Compton, all right, whether you're in Trenton,
don't forget Alaska,
or Roxbury, outside of Massachusetts, this is the part of America, right, that this president and this administration has raised their hand and said, we've for too long promised that we're going to close the wealth gap. We for too long promised that we're going to get everybody else into the game. And there's frustration and anger in the country because people don't feel like that promise has been met. And here we have an opportunity, now that is baked into law forevermore. We're changing the game. Every kid in the game of the upside of America, and now the ask of everybody in this room and everybody in America. It's on you now to make sure that every child claims their investment account when we launch them in July. It's on you to contribute $5 to $10 to those accounts and get those snowballs rolling, right? This is not a government program. This is an ownership program, an ownership account by citizens. So claim the accounts, make sure your friends claim the accounts, make sure your schools know about this, your churches and your synagogues know about this, and make sure that, rather than giving the plastic toy on the second birthday, give $25 into the account. It will transform lives. And our KPI, our key performance indicator for Michael and I here, we want every child, right? Not 50% of kids claiming these accounts. We want 100% of kids claiming these accounts, and we want to see all the accounts adding to the accounts. That unleashes the magic of America. It's the greatest country on the face of the planet. Our national economic advantage has never been greater, but this secures our democracy and capitalism for the next 250 years.
Now, Brad, don't we get a big head start on that on the tax return where you claim the child tax credit? You might just speak about that for a second, because I think that's obviously going to.
So every family this year, when you go to file your taxes, or if you use Cash App, and maybe you do the 1040 EZ, right? Because a lot of families, don't have tax preparers, don't file a normal return. Every single person, it's already baked into Intuit and Cash App and all these things. You're going to get a 4547. It's going to pop up and say, hey, your kid is eligible for a Trump account. Do you want to claim it? All you got to do, Kevin, all your information's already filled out. You just have to say yes. So make sure those forms are already going out to new moms. I see a lot of kids and babies in the room. All of them, my children included, they are going to be claiming their accounts, and we're evangelizing on it. We have 3 young people here today with me who are working on financial literacy around this, right? What is the compounding worth? Educating middle schoolers about this. And so we're going to make sure that this is out there. Michael and I, should we tip our hand and tell them we're going to run a Super Bowl ad or not? Oh, okay.
I think you just did. Yes. Dear America,
we're gonna,
stay tuned.
The point is, it's not just the accounts. We're going to put money, effort, and wood behind this. I'm dedicating the next decade of my life to making sure that not only we get this passed, but it's the greatest implementation that we ever do, Kevin.
And I'm dedicating the next decade of Brad's life also, so.
Michael, last words. How would you like to sum it up?
I would sum it up as the greatest investment we can make is an investment in our children, and this has the opportunity to ignite a generation of people that understand how capital works and change the complexion of the nation to a nation of owners and investors and capitalists. And that's incredibly exciting.
I can't think of two better ambassadors to get the word out than you two guys. You're obviously very passionate about it, and you've been very much part of thinking it through. It's a really good idea, and I think everybody in here understands it, and now we have to multiply it by 100 million. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, a hand for these two extraordinary men. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.